Hey everyone, welcome back to Mental Notes with Matt. Today's episode is a special one. I'm talking with someone I've known for a long time, first through our time at Rutgers together, and then having the privilege to act in one of his original plays in New York City at Cherry Lane Theater. I'm truly grateful to sit down with my friend Samuel Brett Williams. Now, Brett is an award-winning playwright and screenwriter whose work doesn't flinch. He writes the stuff that many of us feel but don't often say. He explores ideas like family, identity, masculinity, and mental health, and he does it with humor, grit, and so much humanity. This conversation is about what it takes to tell the truth on stage and in life, and what it costs us when we don't. So, Brett, it's great to have you here. I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me.
It's great to see you, Matt, and talk to you as well. It's been a while.
Sure has. So let's just dive right in. Do you remember the moment that you realized writing was your outlet or your way of making sense of the world?
I think I do, absolutely. Yeah, I've always wanted to be a writer. I remember when I was a kid, even when I had books that my mom would read to me, I remember before I could even kind of write, I would kind of, mark out their words and write mine over them, before I even knew how to do words, and I'd like get in trouble for it. Like I even wanted it to kind of be my own words. And then I would always kind of emulate stories that I liked. I would rewrite the stories when I was a kid, and I think Harold Bloom calls that kind of the anxiety of influence. You kind of just copy the stories you like at first until you can kind of create your own stories. And I think I remember the first story that I really finished and I liked. I was a Oakland A's fan when I was a kid, like the Bash Brothers with Jose Canseco and Mark McGuire. And for some reason, I got mad at Ricky Henderson. I wrote the unauthorized biography of Ricky Henderson, and that was like the first thing I finished that I remember kind of liking as a kid. But then as I got older, I started writing stuff, and the things that kind of worked best for me, I remember, was the dialogue. And I kind of drifted toward that, and that's kind of what brought me to theater, and that's what kind of took me to Mason Gross and kind of brought me out of Arkansas, and that's where we met.
Yeah. So Brett and I both were in the conservatory at Rutgers University's Mason Gross School of the Arts many years ago. Yeah, and it's been amazing to watch your journey over the years and to play a small part in that a few times over the years. A lot of the work that you put out there, it wrestles with these kind of deep themes like identity and family and internal conflict. I mean, do you write from lived experience first, or do you start from an emotional question that you want to explore?
I think it's always kind of, it's hard to explain, but it's kind of an argument in my head I kind of have with myself. I'm always kind of walking around having these kind of conversations in my head that sound kind of weird, I guess. But I was an only child. For the most part, I had a stepbrother that came a couple of summers when I was young, but it was like 2 or 3 summers I think he was around. But other than that, it was just me. And I was always kind of, creating these worlds in my head and, playing with my toys. And, as I became a writer, I'm always kind of creating dialogue. I'm always thinking about dialogue. I'm always kind of thinking about things that are funny or conversations that are funny. And it always starts, every play, every movie, everything always starts with the conversation in my head.
Hmm.
And I'm always kind of thinking about ideas, thinking about things that kind of affect me. I'm a professor at Cal State, and I do screenwriting and TV writing and playwriting. And I kind of started the program out there. And I'm always talking about students. I'm always telling them, what is the thing that you feel in your chest? What is it that gives you that uncomfortable kind of feeling? And I'm always kind of trying to find that. And when I find a conversation that gives me that feeling that either, makes me laugh or makes me mad or makes me uncomfortable, I know I kind of have that. And, when I'm watching something on TV or reading the news or, watching the news, if I find something that confuses me or upsets me or bothers me and I can't quite figure it out, that's kind of a play or a movie. You're looking for a problem you can't figure out, and you don't always solve it, but it's something that you're kind of trying to wrestle with. It's a problem you're trying to figure out on stage with the audience, and you're kind of trying to bring them into that as well.
Yeah, it's such a brave thing to do. A lot of people don't want to confront the uncomfortable stuff. Artists are amazing people for shining a light on these types of really uncomfortable things that we encounter in life. So I think it's a really brave thing that you do. Has it always been easy for you to kind of push back on any kind of internal negativity when it comes to deciding to put stuff out there?
Well, I'll tell you, I don't think I've ever. We're doing a play right now called Derby Day, and I just told the actors at first, I was like, you just have to push through the walkouts because people are going to walk out of this play at the beginning, and I told them I've never done a play where people haven't walked out. So
Amazing.
you know that you're doing it right when people walk out of this play. And I told them some funny walkout stories. You were in my play, The Woodpecker,
Yep.
and I remember we did The Woodpecker, and people walked out of that play in New York. And I remember we did a production of The Woodpecker in DC once, and it was a pay what you can performance. And sometimes these little theaters will do like a Sunday pay what you can, and it was a Sunday pay what you can. And this guy came, and he was like dressed in a suit, and he had like a briefcase, and they did it with no intermission. It was like halfway through the show. And he got up and he had to get through the row. So like five people had to like stand up to let him out, and he goes over to the donation box and he opens up the box and takes his donation back like in front of
Unbelievable.
everyone and just leaves. And I remember when they did the revival on Theater Row, the doors were like really heavy, so every time anyone would walk out you'd hear conk 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 conk. So when people would walk out of that one, they'd get mad at the endings. They'd walk out, and you always know kind of when the people would walk out of each of the plays, like what the stuff was that would kind of upset them. But I mean,
Yeah.
uh, my plays, I think they have problems, but I don't have answers a lot of
Yeah.
times, right? I hate stuff that preaches to you and gives you the answer. So I always try to avoid that. I try to raise problems. I don't think we live in a perfect world. And I think the problems, you kind of need to leave it to the audience to go out and try to fix things
Yeah.
and have to go out and try to be better people and try to solve the problems on their own. So, and I think sometimes that kind of frustrates the audience, right?
Sure.
It's, Lee Blessing, who I studied with, a lot of times he would say that, to a degree, theater is church for the agnostic, or
Oh,
theater it's a form of church, right? But in a sense, I'm not trying to give them solutions. I'm not trying to give them answers. I'm not trying to preach to them. I'm trying to bring people together, and I'm trying to, talk to them, and, so I'm not trying to be better than them. I'm just trying to say, here's a problem I see, and let's discuss it, and let's talk about it, and let's see if, there's an answer outside that we can kind of find. But I don't have the answer. I'm not better than you.
yeah. It's a
And
beautiful way of
that makes
exploration.
people uncomfortable. It's definitely an
Yeah,
uncomfortable space.
absolutely. But you're not. I mean, what I'm getting from that is that you're not a people pleaser. You're there to start a conversation.
Absolutely.
Which I
Yeah.
think is such an important thing, especially nowadays. A lot of people are very, very tightly held to their own beliefs and values, and refuse to take the time to understand a different point of view. And so I love the fact that you put stuff out there that isn't there to please everyone. You're not modifying things to make people feel comfortable. You're in fact a lot of the time doing it in the completely opposite way. So that's a really admirable way in of exploration. It's very cool.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it brings people. I mean, I really do think that if we I think it's important that we kind of come together now, more than anything, as a
Mhm.
country, and like there's so many I guess silos. We're all in our kind of little place. I'm, in a little bit of a unique perspective. Like I work in California part of the time, and I live in Arkansas part of the time, and I go back and forth. And I drive across the country twice a year. from Arkansas to California, and I see so much of the country, and I see so many different types of people, and I live with so many different types of the people, and I grew up in Arkansas, and I lived in New York for 10 years. And I've lived in these different communities, and I continue to live in these different communities, and I have friends all over the place. And I'm always just trying to tell people, like, we're not as different as we think we are. And, my plays too, I'm always trying to hopefully, you know, as angry as they can seem and as divisive as they can be at times, I really do hope they humanize people in a way that they can kind of make you see things a little bit from a different perspective, and ultimately, end of the day, surprise you by how much you kind of care about the other and people you think you have nothing in common with. I'm always trying to make you kind of care about them. Even if it's like, Harold and Woodpecker, the three Southern guys in Derby Day, or whoever it is at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. We are so much more alike than we are different, and I think that, when we do get those intense feelings from watching something that feel very negative, people getting up, storming out, taking their donation back, I wonder how many of those people actually how long they actually sit with the reasons they got so upset after your performances, you know?
I did an article. I was at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival with a play once, and they asked me to write an article for one of their magazines. I was doing press, and I wrote an article, and I interviewed other playwrights, and it was I did a list of the top 10 favorite walkouts of
Uh-huh.
like plays, and I interviewed, and it was like one of my favorite things I did because every playwright has had people walk out of their plays, and it's
Yeah.
kind of like, some of their favorite stories. And I remember, the playwright Richard Dresser.
Mhm.
He wrote Rounding Third and a lot of really great plays, and he did TV for a long time. And he told me a story about how he was doing a show at a South Coast Rep, and he said that they had to do an announcement over the speaker for someone to move a car to allow someone to get out of his play so that they could leave because they wanted to leave the play because they didn't like it so much, and it was his car. So he
Oh,
had
that's
to go
wiggle.
get up. So Richard had to go leave his own play to go let someone out so they could they could get out early.
That's amazing. It's
Yeah.
funny too because, I feel like most people that are producing something for an audience, their intention is for people to stay and recommend it, but it
Yeah.
seems like I mean, do you find it to be more successful if you've got those people that are leaving the theater because they're bent out of shape of from what they've seen? I mean, do you define success
No.
differently than people that are, trying to keep butts in the seats and get
No,
more butts in the
I
seats?
mean, when you're young, I'm
Yeah.
44 now. When you're young, you definitely want to be the, young angry guy who,
Mm,
makes a mark and gets noticed and everything. But now I just started a theater company down here in Arkansas, and you want to build an audience, and you want to connect with people, and you want to touch them, and you want to affect them, and you want to show them something, ultimately what theater can do, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
you want to build a young audience, and you don't want to be as brash and angry as you were before, certainly. But at the same time, there are certain people that you're going to create work that it's just not for them, right?
sure.
And, it's, you wanna have a specific, what we're trying to do down here is we're trying to create, a little bit of edgier theater. It's not community theater, it's not, it's new work, and it's new work that they kinda haven't seen before, so it's not gonna be for everyone. So, it's gonna happen, and, as long as they know the tickets aren't refundable, it's fine.
Well, the important thing is that you're not sacrificing the truth from your perspective, which I think,
Absolutely.
you don't
Yes.
you don't compromise the truth of what you're putting out there. for the select group that it maybe doesn't resonate with. And that's so true in
100%.
life. It's so true in life too. And something that I hate that it's taken me so long in my life to really discover and understand and hold on to is that who you are underneath all of it isn't for everyone and it shouldn't be for everyone. You know, it's amazing when you can be free enough to speak what is your truth and what has meaning for you, and the people that resonate with it, that connect with it, those are the people that you're doing it for at the end of the day, you know?
I tell my students, and it's a lecture I give, and it's one of the first things I say, I think, in the screenwriting class, and I tell them the most courageous thing you can do in life is tell the truth and write about the truth.
Yeah.
And I say it's the hardest thing you can do as a writer. And you're going to upset people from both sides of the political spectrum. You're going to upset people, and you're going to offend people, and you're going to get notes constantly from
Yeah.
directors and producers and actors who say you got to change this, and it's going to upset people. But the only thing you can do is look at the world, say this is how I see it, this is the truth that I believe, and put it down on paper and stick to it, right? And if that resonates with people, then you might get to do it again, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And you have to hold to that. And that becomes your voice as a writer, your truth and what you see and how you see the world. And I kind of preach that to them. And I told them once I realized that and once I stuck to that, that's when I started getting produced. But the courage that takes is beyond anything I can explain to them until they've actually kind of been through the process and they've had to kind of
Yeah.
stand up for it, which is just an incredibly difficult thing because it's a constant battle, really, to kind of defend the truth. And that's why you really have to surround yourself with people that believe in what you're doing and will stick up for it with you. And that's one thing I love about theater is you really kind of build a family and you build
Yeah.
people who believe in the truth and believe in it with you. And it becomes this really wonderful little enclave where you can kind of just do it together. I'm having so much fun doing it again. It's a wonderful thing. And film, it's its own thing, but it's really not the same in so many different ways because so many more people get involved, and the more money that gets involved, it
Yeah.
feels like the more compromises you tend to
Right.
make.
Yeah. I love that. It was really interesting what you were saying there. It's amazing, I think, or what I'm discovering recently anyway, how many more doors open up when you stand firm to what your truth is, and you're not accommodating people that are looking to make money off of it, you know? Obviously, that's the goal, but I
Oh, yeah.
think that when you stay true to who you really are and what you actually have to say, you're actually opening up a lot more doors than trying to accommodate everyone around you and everyone else's viewpoints and ideas for how they think it should be. Do you find it difficult to stay true to your voice when you're writing something? If you're working with a lot of people that have a major stake in the success or failure of the project?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think anytime I've ever um, held firm and worked hard and done good work, it's led to other work. That's one thing I tell my students. And there have been times I've made compromises. And one thing I've learned is when you make compromises as a writer, the only person who ever gets blamed is you.
Mm,
But because the people you make the compromises for, they aren't there when the reviews come out, and they aren't there when the blame gets handed out.
yeah,
But you do all this stuff for them, but then you end up getting blamed.
right.
And so ultimately, your name's on the script, particularly in theater as well. Film's a different thing because then they'll stick their name on it too, and it just kind of gets lost and stuff. film is just can be just really a heartbreaking experience. It'll just,
Mm,
I mean, you kind of just write it and you send it out and you let it just kind of get wrapped up and stuff.
mm,
That's been a
mhm,
different thing. I did have a feature film made, and that was a whole nother thing. And it went really, really well in a lot of ways. I wish I had changed the ending of the film,
mm,
and that was on me. I could have gotten that done, but I didn't. I really think it's really almost a perfect film in a lot of ways, except for the way that it ended. And I could have pushed to end it differently, but I didn't. I think I missed. I didn't stick the ending, and there's
mm.
different reasons why I didn't do that. But the I think the director did a phenomenal job, and the production was amazing, and everything really worked well. And but then for the next, I don't know, 7 or 8 years, there were a lot of other projects that just got stalled out
Mm,
because of that, and it was because the ending, I think, wasn't quite right, and I think I wasted a lot of time on other film projects that we were just trying to get made for more money. And
yeah,
film, the thing with film is you can get lost in film with films not getting made. And the thing with theater is you can just do theater in a basement with your
right.
friends, and you can just get
Anywhere.
you can do theater, and it keeps you so much sharper than film.
Sure.
And, you can constantly be doing theater, and I think I got away from theater, and I got stuck in film, and I got excited because I got that film made, and then I thought all these other films were gonna get made, and I just really got wrapped up in film, and we didn't get another one made after that for, uh for a few years, and I think I wasted some time and I got away from theater, and now I'm really getting back into theater again because I really got disillusioned with film and not getting those film projects made.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting. Theater is one of those things, man. Like you said, you could do it in the basement, you can do it in a hallway, you can do it out in a
Yeah.
park. It doesn't matter where
It,
you are, and it's always going to be slightly different. It's not going to be one thing that is, set in stone that you can't modify. Your film, if it was a play, you can change that
that's
ending.
the thing too, and the film got made from having written a good play,
Right.
So it's like I wrote and, I was writing plays and one play led to another play, which led to another play, which then got a film made, right? So everything for me has always come from theater, and theater has
Yeah.
always been my love, and I'm always happiest, doing theater, and even when that film was being made, I was a complete mess, and I
Yeah.
wasn't even enjoying the film process,
It's
right?
so interesting. It's so
And
interesting because
then and
it
then
feels like a trajectory too from theater to
yeah.
film, but it ends up kind of working against you in some ways.
Yeah, and then I was miserable working on film stuff for the next, like, couple of years, and now I'm just like and then I got to the point where I was like, "I'm just gonna do something where no one can tell me no." I've always wanted a theater company in Arkansas. I'm like, "We're gonna start one here." And now I got back in the room and we're rehearsing, and I'm like, "This is as happy as I've been in, like, as long as I can remember. We're just gonna put this play up and we're gonna do it." And it's going great. I'm super excited.
Amazing. Amazing.
We already have a festival planned for January with stuff and just bringing people out that I wanna work with and just building, piece by piece, brick by brick.
Absolutely. That's incredible. I'm curious, have you ever not written something because it felt like it was too close to home? Or maybe you wrote it, but like you weren't ready to share it?
No, the thing is to
Amazing.
me, one thing I'm always excited about is, like, this is my Southern accent. There's one word I could never say and not sound like a hillbilly, and that is naked. Uh, so it's like I got a friend Michael in S Cleveland, and, anytime we're close to a fire, he says, "My skin gets real red," and he says, "My hillbilly's showing," and when I say naked, he says, "My hillbilly's showing," and, but anything that makes me feel naked and, uncomfortable, like, I tell my students, "When you feel that thing that makes you feel that way, I get excited if something makes me feel embarrassed, right? So if I feel it in my chest, I'm like, "Oh, this is good. This is gonna embarrass my family. Man,
Yeah.
this is what
That's
I'm looking for."
That's so interesting. That's such a great approach to not view the anxiety and the discomfort as a negative, but flipping it and saying, let's lean into this and really explore it, like, and make it an exciting thing rather than something that you should be dreading. What a great way into living your truth as a human being, too. That's a really great insight.
Well, I tell my students, I say, if you're not feeling something, I'm not feeling something.
Right.
So you have to be feeling something when you're writing it, right? If
Yeah,
you're not excited when you're writing it, I'm not going to be excited when you're reading it. If you're not embarrassed when you're writing it, I'm not going to be embarrassed when I'm reading it. If you're bored when you're writing it, I'm going to be bored when I'm reading it, right? And even more so, right? Because you care about it more than I care about it. So
sure.
it's like, so you have to be feeling something when you're reading it or writing it, you know.
Yeah.
So it's like when I have these emotions when I'm doing something, it's just very exciting. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is humiliating. So like sometimes
and in the most
it's
in the most
it gets
joyous
me
voice
very
possible.
excited. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I dated a writer once, and I remember we got in a fight, and we were just, going at it, and she was saying, I think I could say her name, which is fine. She's a good sport. She's very successful now. She went to Juilliard, and she just had a play off Broadway with Tim Daly, Leah Romeo. I think
Oh,
you're
yeah, I remember Leah. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so we got in a fight once, and we were going at it, and she was saying stuff to me, I was saying stuff to her, but we were tracking it in our heads, and she was
Yeah.
like, "You can't
I'm gonna
use
use
that,"
this.
and I was like, I'm gonna use that." She's like, "We were trying to we were fighting, but yet we were arguing over who could get to keep what in the argument over,
Oh,
like,
god.
in our plays."
Oh, that's
Because, like,
amazing.
we were like we both wanted to use the material for like for future plays,
I love that. What a way to
and
flip the script on its head.
yeah, because it was like hurtful and painful, and yeah, I still remember when we were living in this Hoboken apartment, and there was like this it was this weird little basement, but there was like a circular, like, thing that had, like, a window, and this, crow died, and it fell right in the middle of the circular part, and it just stunk, and the maintenance couldn't get to it for, like, a week, and it was just smelled of death right when we broke up, and I was like, "Well, that's a metaphor," and
Right?
she's like, "Mine, I'm using it. Like, the metaphor for the death of our relationship." She's like, "It's
Oh my
mine,"
gosh. I love all of this, Brett. It's so
you know?
amazing. I mean, it's such a great reminder that a life well lived is a life where you've experienced the full gamut of all of the emotions. I mean, because what's the point of just always riding a high? You've got to have that balance of all the things. And for you guys to recognize it and be conscious of it through that dialogue that you're naturally creating by being present with that person, it's extraordinary.
Yeah, well, it's like, you have to, you just have to constantly be aware of everything. I tell students even, I say when you get in an Uber, like, always ask your Uber driver, what is the weirdest thing that's ever happened to you? Because
Yeah.
every Uber driver I've ever ridden with has a great story, right?
Yeah.
And they always tell you something that's absolutely off the wall, and you're just looking for great stories. Anne Lamott, she's a great writer who writes about writing, and she says that writer's block doesn't exist.
Mm,
It just means that you're empty, because writing is an act of giving, and what you need to do is you just need to go back out in the world, and you just need to fill yourself up.
yeah.
And, so as writers, I feel like we just need to constantly be filling ourselves with the world, right? Just be filling ourselves with, you know, good things and bad, like love and heartbreak and sunsets and, failures and the things that make us human, because those are the things we're giving back to our readers and, our theater goers and, the people we're trying to kind of connect with. We're trying to give them we're trying to make them feel something
Right.
and experience something. It's not a comfortable experience to go to the theater, but it's hopefully ultimately an experience that they remember and that they felt and that they relate to and that they've experienced together and that they walk out, they've survived and they can put together and they've learned from. I don't ultimately know what we've all learned, but put it together and we think about it as we go forward and we try to figure out what we've learned. We're learning,
Yes.
a play is something we're all learning together.
And sometimes you don't need to come to any kind of conclusion. Sometimes it can just be that it impacted you in some way and you get to sit with that. And maybe that
Yeah.
opens up something else in the future, right when you
Yeah,
least
it
expect
doesn't
it.
I my favorite endings are plays that don't end, like, in the
Nice.
final scene, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? They keep going. I'm always trying to have the play continue after the final scene, so they
Yeah.
keep talking about it afterwards.
Yeah. I love the idea of asking your Uber driver questions. It's about staying curious also
Oh,
and
yeah.
getting out of your own way and taking some risks, knowing that you're not going to die at the end of the day. Take a risk. Maybe say
Yeah,
something if it's true for
eh,
you,
just fill yourself up, fill
Yeah.
yourself up with other people. You just gotta get outside of your head and try to fill yourself up with other people and try to connect with people. I think make the world and the country just a little bit smaller. I think
Yeah. I mean, we should. And I think that we have the ability to do it if more people were a little bit more open-minded and curious, you know?
absolutely, yeah.
So, what's something you now know emotionally or creatively that you wish you could tell your younger self?
I mean, that's a great question. Well, I mean, I one thing I know now is you really don't know who's gonna make it and who's not gonna make it, you
Mhm.
know? So you should be nice to everyone, I think. You should be kind to everyone, especially particularly in grad school, I think. I think kindness goes a long way. I think that ego can get in the way of a lot of relationships. I think that it's a collaborative effort in terms of theater and film, and I think that you need to find the right collaborators, and I think that you need to value those relationships, and I think that you need to protect those relationships. I think I've lost relationships at times from ego
Yep.
and various things. And I think that those are important, to kind of create good art. And I think you need to find the people who believe in what you're doing and just kind of support them and have them support you and work as hard as you can with them. But then there are also people who really there's a lot of people you'll find that say that they're writers, they say they're directors, they say that they're actors, and they aren't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're not doing it and they're not working and they're not really putting the effort in. And those are people, you don't really need them in your life as much, I don't think. I mean, they're nice people, they're fun to kind of hang out with. But you need to find the people that are really working hard. And you need to, if you really want to take this seriously, you need a plan and you need to treat it like a business and you need to go out and you need to figure out how you're going to do this and you need to find people who have done it and who have succeeded and who are continuing to do it and you need to figure out the way that they've done it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, knowing the crowd that is going to elevate you and not kind of weigh you down, I think is super important. And I think that that can be a little bit tricky for some people, that are looking to have a ton of people on their side, but I think at the end of the day it's really important to stick with those people that are in alignment with your values and your vision and your goals and to elevate each other. I mean, it is a business. And life, I guess, can be looked at a little bit as a business in terms of networking and expanding your group, but with the people that you want to travel this road of life with, and to kind of ignore a little bit the the people that are going against the grain of what you're trying to accomplish. It seems like
Yeah,
you're
what
very comfortable in who you are, and what you put out into the world, and I think that seems like a testament to the people that you surround yourself with.
and thank you. It took so long to get here. It was I was so anxious and so anxious through my 20s and then into my 30s, and just I was just so scared for
Yeah.
so long. And
Same, Brett, same. Yeah.
there was so much fear in my life, and so much fear of not making it, quote unquote, making it, and so much fear of just thinking I was a fraud, and so much fear of thinking like I wasn't good enough, and
Yeah.
what I was writing wasn't good enough, and people weren't going to like what I was doing, and I didn't fit in, and I wasn't cool enough, and I wasn't writing enough. And what am I doing with my life? And why am I doing this? And
You know,
it should
you sound a lot like me. You sound like a lot like many people in the world. You know, I'm really curious, has there been a shift more recently? I mean, you said your 20s and your 30s, like, and, start of your 30s, that you really had a lot of that anxiety, but was there a shift? Was there something that allowed you to say, "Fuck it," you know?
honestly, yeah, there was a shift, I think. Teaching helped a lot, I think,
Oh,
and the security of taking a position at a university. I went and I was writing a reality show. I was writing. I don't know if you know this, but I was writing Amish Mafia.
no
Uh,
way.
yeah,
I did not know that.
so there is a TV show called Amish Mafia, and I was a story producer on it, and I was
Uh-huh.
writing it. And I was doing that, and then I was still doing theater in New York. I was doing readings and plays and stuff, and things were going okay. I had a reading with the cast in this reading was like ridiculous. Like in the cast was Adam Driver,
Oh,
Betty
man.
Gilpin, I can't remember who else was in it, but like I mean things were okay, but it was still just readings, right? And then
Yeah.
I'd had another reading that was like directed by like Alex Timbers and stuff, but it was like I was just having readings at the time, and I was feeling the things I was telling you I was feeling, and like the Amish Mafia thing was like it was so much work, and I was doing it all the time, and I was thinking like, what's making me happy? And the happiest I was I was going to Rutgers like once a week to teach this screenwriting or playwriting class.
Yeah.
And I was really looking forward to teaching those students, and I was enjoying that really more than anything at the time. And everything else was just giving me so much anxiety, and my marriage was just in a very, very bad place. I was married at the time, and things weren't going wrong, and I basically just had my dad died,
Mm.
and he got real sick, and I came home to be with him. He passed away, and he put down a deposit on this place in Arkansas, this lake house, and I was like, "I don't think I'm going back to New York. Like, I don't think I can go back. I can't take it. Like, it's giving me too much. I'm not happy there." So I said, "I can't do it. I gotta get a divorce. Things are horrible. I'm not happy." So I got divorced. I stayed in Arkansas, and I was like, I'm gonna write." And everything changed. This was 2015. It was 10 years ago. It all happened at once. Then my mom got sick as well, so I was like, that all played into me kinda staying down here, and I decided I was gonna teach. I was gonna look for teaching, and from me staying in Arkansas, that's what got my movie made. I got a job teaching at University in Nebraska, so I was close to my mom. Then my mom passed away. Then I got the job in California, and teaching has really just given me kind of a second wind in terms of writing, and my students have really kind of just re-energized me, if nothing else, I just feel like it's given me a way to kind of give back, and it's made me feel, I don't know, more confident in the things I say because I know, it's helped me re-visualize everything I was doing, and it's helped me understand the craft of playwriting, TV writing, screenwriting, and understand that I really kind of have something to kind of contribute and to give to them because even if, I don't go out and write the perfect screenplay or the perfect play, I can give something to them that maybe one day that they'll go out and they'll win their
Yeah.
Oscar, right? I have something to give to them and to help them. And I have some amazing students and I care about them. So it's like I'm trying to give them as much as I can give, and I'm gonna keep writing. And I have my place down here. So I spend, half the year teaching there and half the year coming down here, and then I've created my theater company down here, so we're doing plays down here. So I get to do my theater here. I get to go teach there, and I'm just, I'm happy. I'm doing what I want. I get to do theater. I get to teach. I get, get to see pretty stuff down here, and then California's pretty chill. I got some nice coworkers, and I just feel secure. I feel happy in my life. I've
That's
I've
great.
met a good person. We're happy. Got a good girlfriend, and it's just a much better place than I was in at the time than when I was in New York, just pushing and pushing and pushing and trying to kind of live up to this standard that it had been
Yeah.
created by other people, that was this idea of what I guess a writer should be and what they should look like and who they were. And I'm just this guy who kind of grew up in Arkansas who was never going to fit into that idea of what a New York writer is. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I'm not that person, right? I'm going
Yeah.
to write my Arkansas plays and we're going to do them down here. And we're with Southern Theater Company. That's who we are, and we're gonna do plays from friends in New York, and now I have all these great connections too. Like I know all these amazing playwrights, and we can do their plays down here, and we're gonna show plays down here to people who would never have seen these plays,
Yeah.
right? From all these great writers, if I hadn't gotten to meet them. So it's a blessing to have lived all these different places and now bring it back down here to people to let them see it. So it just, I don't know. It's. I just feel like I'm in a good place.
That's amazing. First of all, thank you for sharing all of that. I mean, that's a lot of like, real vulnerable stuff, and I relate so much to it. It sounds like a lot what you're saying is, finding your purpose, and a lot of that comes from letting go of the idea of what you think the ultimate of your craft or what you're putting out to the world is, and letting go of all of that, doing the things that bring you joy, discovering the things that bring you joy, and that you feel are your purpose. So it's amazing that you've found that and going through all the motions and discovering that. But yeah, thank you for sharing all that.
It was just really trying to live up to other people's ideas of
Yes.
what you're supposed to be as a
Yeah,
writer,
and
I
I think
think.
we're inundated, I think, especially through social media, of what, success and making it kind of looks like, and
Absolutely.
it's different for everyone. It's different for everyone, and I think that when we are striving to get to a level that we see someone we admire has gotten to, it diminishes the fact that our path might be completely different, and it might end up being the thing that brings us the most joy and happiness and authenticity. I've also found when I'm in a position where I can teach other people or especially connect with other people, it makes me happiest. And there may not be as many opportunities to make a boatload of money doing that, but I think it's easier to go to bed at night and sleep soundly knowing that you're going to wake up and continue to give the true version of yourself that actually makes you happy, you know?
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
So, before we close it out, I got a couple of really rapid fire questions for you. What's a play that wrecked you, like in a good way? Like you walked out and you were just a mess.
I remember going to see Venus and Fur, in person, and I was there, and my girlfriend at the time, I mean, we were running in, and it was raining, and it was one of those great plays where, no one had I don't think it had even been reviewed at the time, and we it was one of those New York nights where you're late for the play and you don't know what you're about to see, and we just gotten the tickets, and you didn't even maybe want to see a play at the time, and we sat down, and that performance of that actress was so just breathtaking. It just transformed you to where you were.
Hmm.
And it was I don't want to say her name wrong, but she became very famous after that. Nina Arianda, I think, but it was, I think it was just a remarkable performance. Another one was Ian McShane in Homecoming. The
Hmm.
Homecoming by, Harold Pinter was just unbelievable in person on stage, and then, just reading it, everything in my life changed after I read Martin McDonagh for the first time. I mean,
Oh yeah.
that just changed the way that I wrote forever, and then also, Long Day's Journey into Night had a profound impact on my writing as well. Those are some of the seminal kind of things, and then seeing on stage for the first time Glenn Ross and understanding David Mamet and how a play
Hmm.
worked. That was like one of the first plays I ever saw on Broadway when I moved to New York. And I was like, "Oh, I get this now. I see how theater works. I understand what this means now. Now I understand it. I can start to kind of emulate this."
Awesome. Those are
Those were important
some good ones.
experiences.
Yeah, those are good ones. Last one before I want you to tell us more about the stuff that you're doing. But what's a line from something that you've written that still holds a lot of weight for you?
Oh, there's a line in Derby Day, which we're doing now, where at
Yeah.
the beginning of the race, the brothers are all kind of looking at talking about this horse, and they say one day they're talking about the horse's breeding, and horses are bred, a certain way, and it says, the horse hasn't run well yet, and the one brother says, well, you know what they say about a horse, one day it wakes up, and the other one's like, and realizes who its father was and acts accordingly, and then basically means that it'll race good one day because it had a good father. And then at the end of the race, the three brothers do something really, really bad. And, the one brother's about to beat the other one kind of to death. And, the other brother says, one day you wake up and realize who your father was and
Hmm.
act accordingly. And, he
Ah,
kind of saves him. But it gets a drawback, and the whole play is about fathers and sons and kind of the sins we live with, and they're dealing with abuse. And that was always kind of an important line to me, and someone gave me once for an opening night gift a flask that has that on there, and I always go back to that line. Always That was kind of an important line, and the play is about my father and his father and fathers and sons, and we always had a very difficult relationship, so that's always a line that's kind of stuck with me.
that's beautiful. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. So tell me a little bit about this new theater company.
It's called Southern Theater Company. It's in Hot Springs, Arkansas. We just got our nonprofit status. I'm very excited about it. We're doing our first play here, Derby Day. It's about my dad and his two brothers dealing with the death of their dad. They go to the track to celebrate the death. Then they drink and gamble and do all sorts of stuff. That play was done in New York twice, and then LA once, and then I directed it in a castle in Scotland. We're doing it
Wow.
here in Arkansas for our inaugural production. And then in December, we have an awesome 10-minute play festival, which we'll announce soon, which is going to be a co production with theater in Cincinnati called Clifton Players, which is cool. That'll be our second production we have coming up. So we got some cool stuff coming up there. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram, Southern Theater Company. Please give us a like, and hopefully we will start bringing some people in soon, and we'll keep building up the theater, and I can work with all my incredibly talented actors, writers, directors, and everybody I know from New York, LA, all over. And hopefully we can even get you down here soon, Matt.
What a dream that would
I
be.
always love you. The thing is, you acted in my first ever, I think, professional production in New York. The Woodpecker, you starred in it as Jimmy.
Yeah, it was a great show.
Yeah.
One of my favorite ever performances.
I'll never forget when you auditioned. I'll never forget your eyes. You always had the best eyes on stage.
Oh wow,
No
thank you.
matter what, no matter what, I could always just cut lines,
and I hate cutting my own lines. But I could cut lines and cut lines because you could always just do anything that was ever needed in the scene because your eyes were so good.
Oh, that's very sweet of you to say. I appreciate that. Yeah, well, hopefully one day our paths will cross in a way where we'll get to work together. I have no doubt at some point in the future that'll happen. But, Brett, I really, really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. Your life is incredible, and I've loved watching the journey. I'm excited about this new theater company. So yeah, thank you so much for listening to this conversation with Brett Williams. Talking with Brett, it's reminded me that real truth, not just the kind that we craft into scenes, but the kind that we live by. I guess that can come with a cost, and in order to get to the place of clarity and connection and freedom that you can't fake in life. So if this episode resonated with you, I hope that you'll share it with someone who could use a reminder that it's okay to say what's real. Until next time, take care of yourself and keep showing up.